Good morning, everyone. We meet again. So today we are going to start with not start. We are going to continue with our lesson number 2.2. That is lesson 2.2. Three questions. Right? Okay. So here, as I said before, we were talking about a particular king who had three important questions in his mind, which he deemed important for, everyday work, right? And what were those three questions? Three questions were: the first one was, what is the right time to do any kind of work that you want to do? Second, whom should I pay attention to the most? Like, if there are people, counselors, doctors, teachers, the welfare community, you can call it anybody. So, who is the most important person that I should be paying attention to? And the last question was, how he will know that whatever work he is doing is the most important thing that he is doing. So, in order to get the answer for these three questions, he announces in his kingdom as to a big, huge reward for whoever convinces him in answering the three questions that he had in his mind. So we find that a lot of people come, a lot of people answer the questions that he had in his mind and everything, but none of the answers were satisfied. So finally, he decides that he will go to a hermit who lived in some kind of a jungle and get the answer from him, because he was a sage and he would answer it exactly the way he wants to answer. But since the sage used to talk only to the common people and not to the king and everyone, so the king disguises himself as a commoner and goes to meet him, where he finds that the hermit is very weak and fragile and he's digging the ground. So he says politely, "Oh dear hermit, that I have come to get answers to the three important questions that is there in my mind as to what it is called." But the hermit doesn't answer him. Instead, he continues to dig. After some time, the king feels that he takes the spade from him when he finds that the hermit has gone tired. He takes the spade from him and continues to dig. But when the hermit still doesn't answer, he repeats his question and then says if he does not give the answer, then he would go. 1 hour passed and another. So I'm continuing the lesson. 1 hour passed and another. The sun began to sink behind the trees, and the king at last stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise one, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me none, please say so, and I will go home." "Here comes someone running," said the hermit. "Let us see who it is." So when the king repeats the question and says that if you cannot answer me, please do so. Please do let me know that you cannot answer the question, so I go from here. But in the meantime, they hear someone come running. So the hermit says, "There's somebody who has come running." The king turned round and saw a bearded man come running out of the forest. The man held his hand pressed against his stomach, and blood was flowing from under them. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground, moaning feebly. Moaning feebly is, like you're in pain and you're, actually breathing with this thing. So feebly is very weak. The king and the hermit unfastened the man's clothing. There was a large wound in his stomach. The king washed it as well as he could and bandaged it with his handkerchief and a towel the hermit had. But the blood would not stop flowing, and the king again and again removed the bandage, soaked with warm blood, and washed and rebandaged the wound. When at last the blood stopped flowing, the man revived and asked for something to drink. The king brought some fresh water and gave it to him. So now when they see that this man is injured and hurt very badly and bleeding, a lot of blood was flowing, immediately they lie him down and they put, the warm towels. When you get hurt or something like that, you immediately block the blood. Why? So that the blood is not, you don't have the loss of blood and you might not faint. So immediately you retain you put something over it so that the blood stops, it doesn't come out and it stays inside. Maybe, yes, you might be weak, but if you allow the blood to flow, what happens is there is a loss of blood inside your body. I'm not that good in scientific this thing, but as far as I know, this is the explanation that you should not have. So that is why, when you are bleeding, you are supposed to, whatever you have, the hanky or whatever, this thing. Now, like suppose if I cut my hand, I immediately, with my dupatta, I will try and stop the blood from coming out. Yes, it will definitely soak the cloth or whatever it is, but at least it will stop from overflowing. Okay, it will be there before till such time that I attend to it and I stop apply some medicine, wash it and apply some medicine so that I don't get infected and the blood is stopped completely. But the best way to do is put an ice pack around it which stops the blood immediately, but the flowing of the blood immediately. But since if you are out or something, we don't get the ice pack and also whatever you have in your hand or even with your own hand, you can try and stop it. So what does this hermit and the king do? They immediately, the king, the king washed and he could with the handkerchief that he had and the towel which the hermit had, they tried to wash the wound and try and stop it. Meanwhile, the sun had set and it had become cool. So the king, with the hermit's help, carried the wounded man into the hut. The man lay there quietly with his eyes closed. By now, the king was so tired after his walk and the work he had done that he lay down himself and also fell asleep. When he awoke in the morning, it took his some time to remember where he was and who was the strange bearded man lying by his side and gazing intently at him. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice. When he saw that the king was awake and was looking at him, "I do not know you and I have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. Finally, after attending to the wound and when they saw that the blood had somehow slowed down and it is not flowing the way it was at the time when that person had come running, the man faints. Then with the help of the hermit, the king and the hermit carries the man to inside the hut where the hermit used to live and lay him down quietly so that and this man goes off to sleep. But the king was also very, very tired because he had, all the way come from his kingdom, traveled and not. Then he had helped the hermit dig the ground and after that he had attended the wounded man. So he was also very tired and he just lies down before the wounded man and goes off to sleep. Okay? Goes off to sleep. And when in the morning when he gets up, what does the king find? That the man next to him is staring at him intently and saying, "Forgive me." So the king is a bit thinking, forgive him for what? So he says, "Since I don't know you, I have got nothing to forgive you for." Now what does the man answers? "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore to revenge himself on you because you executed his brother and seized his property. I knew you had gone alone to see the hermit, and I resolved to kill you on your way back. But the day passed, and you did not return. So I came out of my ambush to find you. Your bodyguards recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from them, but have bled to death. Had you not dressed my wound, I wished to kill you, but you have saved my life. Now, if I live and if you wish it, I'll serve you all my life. See, what does this guy say? Because first, when the king opens his eyes, what does that first thing he sees is that man beside him is looking at him and asking for forgiveness. So the king says, but since I don't know you, and what have you done? Since we have not met each other, what have you done that I have to forgive you for? So this man says that you may not know me, but I do know you because you are the man. I am the man whose brother you had ordered to kill, that is executed, right? That's the word he uses. So he says, not only that, and you have also seized his property, taken away the properties. So this man had promised himself that he will avenge the death of his brother by killing the king. So he had come because the king had, since he had asked those three questions, he says that I'm not satisfied with your answers and I'm going to the hermit to find the answers. So he knew that way that the king is going to meet the hermit and all alone. So he thinks that he has got a very good opportunity to kill the king because he would be all alone and there would be no bodyguard around him. But the moment he comes, the bodyguards, of course, they were there with the king, but they were very far off. But the moment he comes, those bodyguards recognizes him that this guy is the brother of that deceased person who the king had ordered to kill. So they tried to hurt him, but this guy somehow escapes from them and comes running. So now, where the bodyguards were intent on killing him, what had the king done over here? Unknowingly, the king had saved this man's life, right? Unknowingly, because the king was totally unaware, because he is a king, so he's not going to remember every person that he has punished for, right? So he doesn't know who this man was, or what had he done, or what sentence had I given, because there are innumerable people out there to whom he has given the judgment. But those people definitely, because if I am hurt, I will definitely remember who has hurt me. You might not remember me because you might have unintentionally or not intentionally, you might have hurt somebody. But the person who gets hurt always remembers. Okay, so that unintentionally the king had saved this man's life. So he says that if you want, now that you have saved my life, once I get well enough, if you wish, if you can, then I serve you, otherwise it's your decision as to what you want to do with me. Because now he tells the king about his intention of killing the king. So it's up to the king to decide what he has to do. The king was very glad to have made peace with an enemy so easily and to have gained him for a friend. He not only forgave him but said he would send his men and his own physician to attend to him. The king then took leave of him and went out of the hut to look for the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to beg for an answer to the questions he had asked. The hermit was outside on his knees, sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. Okay? The king approached him and said, "For the last time, I pray you to answer my question, wise one." See, now that person who had come to kill the king had asked for the forgiveness, and finally king also at that particular moment, he was not a king. He was just a normal man, like that thief who was, the person who had tried to kill him, or the hermit and everybody. So it was absolutely normal, like, okay. So he was very happy to know that finally he has made peace and he has helped, and he felt, when you help somebody in such a way, you definitely feel very good, no matter what, because basically we are all human beings. Okay, we might get angry, we might want to take revenge, we might swear, okay, this time I'm not going to forgive this guy, I'm going to retaliate back, I'm going to punish that person and all, and I might, because he has done so and so thing. But at the bottom of our this thing, we are all human beings, and it is there in our nature by default to forgive also. Okay, there are certain hardened men who do not forgive. There are hardened people who do not forgive, and they are intent on taking revenge or hurting somebody intentionally. But majority of us are not like that. So we'll leave those few negative people out. But if you see the positive people or the good people, they are innumerable this thing. You might count the people who are, bad, or who wants to hurt and everything. But you cannot count the number of good people who are out there to help you. Because it's the human nature to do so. Okay, so the king also feels very happy that he has helped and saved a person, no matter what his intention. See, unknowingly the king has done. I don't know what would have happened had the king known that this is the guy I have punished, this is the guy whose brother I have punished and taken his property and everything. Maybe that time that decision would have been something else. But what was his first instinct when he saw this man bleeding? The very first instinct was to help him, to stop the bleeding, the blood flowing out of this guy, isn't it? Had he wanted, he would have said, like, I am the king and I am not going to do it. I will let the hermit look after him. He could have done that. But no, what he does is, as a human being, and leaving the fact that he is a king, he has helped an unknown person and saved him from dying. That's all I can say, right? That's all we can say, that this king had helped an unknown person who was about to die. Right? So he feels quite happy that he has helped save the life. Now finally, he says, okay, now this is the time that I have to go and get my answers, otherwise I'll leave this place. So when he goes out in search of the hermit, he finds that the hermit was planting the seeds or the sowing the seeds. Day before yesterday he had dug the ground that was to sow the seeds in the beds that he had done the day before. The king, and then he says, for the last time I'm asking you these 3 questions. If you can answer, then answer, otherwise I'll leave. You have already been answered, said the hermit, still crouching on his thin legs and looking up at the king who stood before him. So the hermit answers him and he says, you are asking the questions, right? But then you have already got the answers for the questions that you were seeking for. What do you mean? Asked the king. Now the king did not understand how come he got the answers. So, do you not see? Replied the hermit. If you did not pity my weakness yesterday and stayed to dig these beds for me, you would have gone back and been killed by that man. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, the most important time was when you were attending to that man, for if you had not bound his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then there is only one time that is important. Now, it is the most important time because it's the only time when you have any power. The most necessary person in is the one with whom you are, for you do not know whether you will ever have dealings with anyone else. And the most important thing is to do this person good, because for that purpose alone you were sent into this life. Now, how does this hermit explains the questions? What was the first question? The first question was, what was the most, what is the right time to do anything? So, the right time was had the present time. The present time, that is the now. That is the now. Why now? Because had the king not stopped, he had of course definitely come and search for the answers that he was seeking for. Had the king not waited patiently and helped the hermit dig the ground, he would have left, because the hermit was not answering him yesterday, right? He was not answering. So, the king could have gone, he would have been haughty and he would have said, okay, fine, you are not answering, I am the king. He could have demanded the answer from the hermit and said, see, I am the king and you have to answer my questions. But I don't think the hermit would have answered, because he doesn't talk to the kings and everybody. He always talks to the common people, right? So maybe the hermit would have not answered him. But the king stayed back. He helped the hermit because he had pity, whatever reason. The bottom line was, he had stayed there to help that person. And had he not helped the hermit, what would have happened? He would have left. He would have said, twice he had asked the hermit to answer his question, thrice the hermit ignored. So if he had ignored those questions and the king had left, two things could have happened. One is that he might have just walked out without getting the answers for the questions that he was looking for. The second thing could have that he could have been killed by this man whose life the king had saved. Right? But then that did not happen. So that moment, that present time when he stayed back and helped the hermit to dig the ground, had saved the king's life. Okay? Now the second one was, after the most important time was when you were attending to the man. If you did not bound his wound, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. See, even after staying back, so the right time was like, okay, that saved the king's life, we could say. But the second thing, whom he should have paid the most important, this thing was, the business was, to save that person who was dying, without knowing as to who that man was, without knowing who that culprit was. He could have been a deadliest killer also. He could have killed the king in spite of, not keeping the gratitude that this man had saved my life. He could have been only intent on killing the king, but he did not do. Instead, what he did, he realized that my intention was to kill the king, but this guy had saved my life, right? But he did not do any such thing. Instead, he apologizes to the king and he makes friends. So the king unknowingly had given that man to make peace with himself. That is, to throw away whatever anger he had, to throw away all his this thing and become a nice person. And the most necessary person is the one whom you are. For you do not know whether you will ever have dealings with anyone else. And the most important thing, to do this person good, because for that purpose alone were you sent into this life? So he says that this is the only time that has come, and this is the reason why you are sent in life, to do something good, be it knowingly or unknowingly. Knowingly, if you do it, then that is, you are kind of expecting something. But unknowingly, what the things that you do is what the most everybody remembers. See, that man who was dying knew the king, and he knew that this guy is bad and everything. But the king saved this guy's life unknowingly. Right? So that thing is what God has sent you in this life for. To live for now. And whatever you do now, the past, whatever you do, once the next day comes, this day becomes a past, right? And whatever has happened in the past cannot be changed. Had the king not attended that wounded man, then he would have not got the chance to apologize to the king and make peace with him. And the king would have regretted the rest of life that I did not save the dying man, right? So, and in the future, you don't know what is going to come or what is not going to come. So, this ends the chapter of the 3 questions. Okay. So, according to all the questions, the answer is now. Right? This is the most important thing that you have to do. Whatever actions you do, whatever this thing that makes your past, that makes your future also. Right? Now, if I am here, whatever I do right now would be my past and would also influence my future. So, the most important time is now, and that alone is for what the God has sent me for in the life. So, this is what it is about, the 3 questions by Leo Tolstoy. Now, I end up my chapter over here. Okay. Now, this next chapter, we will get on with the next chapter, that is connecting the dots.